What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. Hope you're happy, safe, healthy. I want to wish you a very happy Tuesday. What is it? January the 21st, 2025. I hope that week 2 of the Dallas Cowboys head coach search is treating you and finding you well. We have a lot to get to, so let's go ahead and begin. My name, in case you don't know, is RJ Ochoa. You can follow me all over social media. TikTok back on the grid now, obviously. So RJ Ochoa is where I'm at on X, Instagram, Threads, rj.ochoa on the Talk of Tick. If you want to email me, you can also do so, rj.ochoa@sbnation.com. If you're watching after the fact on the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel, you can leave a comment down below. Make sure to please subscribe, and I'll make sure to get to those as well. Obviously, if you are here in the Bleacher Report app live, welcome. What's going on? In case you somehow don't know by now, I am here every Tuesday and Thursday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, talking all things Dallas Cowboys. That's every Tuesday, Thursday, whether it's during the head coach search, whether it's during free agency, whether it's during this, that, or whatever. I will be here. We will be here all together to chat Dallas Cowboys throughout all of 2025, every single Tuesday and Thursday afternoon/evening. And these days, we have a lot to get to in the worst possible way. I love the Dallas Cowboys, and I know that you love the Dallas Cowboys. In fact, actually, it's possible that you don't. It's possible that you're here simply just to troll, and if so, I respect it because that's part of what sports are about, is being as petty as you can possibly be. But we're all kind of fed up with the Dallas Cowboys front office being. I don't even know that they're being petty anymore. I don't know that they're being even vindictive. I think they're just being mean at this point in time. So let's kind of set the timeline here. We have a lot to get to. At the moment, it seems like Brian Schottenheimer is the favorite to be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, which is just the most absurd statement that any human being could say out loud right now. But that being said, let's kind of set the stage for how we got here. Today, as mentioned, is Tuesday, January the 21st, 2025. The Cowboys season ended over 2 weeks ago. Okay, think about it. 2 weeks ago today, we were sitting here, obviously, talking. It was actually the first live Bleacher Report stream, that live Bleacher Report show that I started this year. And the offseason had just begun for the Cowboys, right? Because their season had just ended at the hands, obviously, of the Commanders and whatnot. The Commanders who would wind up in the NFC Championship game. It really is amazing the way that this season just continues to just rear its ugly head or middle finger at the Dallas Cowboys. And we, 2 weeks ago thought, okay, they're going to figure this out. They're going to drag this out with Mike McCarthy, and it's going to be really, really, really annoying. And it was until a week and a day ago, 8 days ago, now that we're talking here, the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy parted ways, went their own ways, however you want to call it. I'm exhausted by this process by now. Either way, the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy divorced 8 days ago, and the search for a new head coach began. Mike McCarthy's search for a new team began, by the way, and he has only to this moment formally interviewed with the Chicago Bears. He did not get that job as it went to Ben Johnson, obviously. He does still have a chance, obviously, at the New Orleans Saints job, so we'll see how that goes. The Cowboys, to date, as of this moment, again, 6 p.m. on Tuesday, the 21st, have formally interviewed 4 candidates. Kellen Moore, Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator, currently also in the NFC Championship game, as mentioned. Making sure I didn't miss some breaking news. I had a bit of a jump in my chest. I thought I saw something, but it was just this Patriots Josh McDaniels thing. Anyway, so they've interviewed Kellen Moore. They also interviewed Robert Saleh, former head coach of the New York Jets, although there's a lot of connection between him and his old gig in San Francisco, the defensive coordinator position. They randomly interviewed Leslie Frazier. That is a very difficult one to explain. I mean, I haven't seen Leslie Frazier be connected to any other real job or opportunity, so that he was an interview for the Cowboys. Go figure. On Tuesday, the day that we're talking again, just a little while ago for me in real time. Obviously, you could be coming here after the fact because you can always catch these on demand, whether it's on the Bleacher Report app or the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel. By the way, if you are in Bleacher Report, you can follow me in the Bleacher Report app, specifically right down below. So on Tuesday, they interviewed Brian Schottenheimer, who is I don't know if you can call him current or reigning offensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys, but he has been the offensive coordinator over the last 2 years. That's a weird thing to call him. It's a correct thing to call him, but it's a weird thing to call him because he did not call plays. Obviously, Mike McCarthy, when the Cowboys moved on from Kellen Moore, decided to take over play calling. So it has been his show. Now, I maintain that Mike McCarthy has gotten very little credit for the things the Cowboys did right and did well in his time as the play caller. I would offer, by the way, making sure I didn't miss something here. This is a tweet. Is there something? Oh no, this was friend of Block of the Boys, Jane Slater tweeted the word "wow" and I panicked. It was about the crazy weather that's been going on. That being said, Mike McCarthy very notably took over play calling, and so Brian Schottenheimer's just been kind of, you know, doing the install and things like that. Somehow, some way, Brian Schottenheimer became the favorite to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, which again is just the dumbest possible sentence to say out loud. What you're looking at on your screen here is our tracker over at bloggingtheboys.com. We do this for any kind of major story surrounding the Cowboys or anything that requires constant updates like free agency, which is silly because they don't make any moves, but or undrafted free agency or cuts whenever they're making their final 53-man roster. So as you can see, we have been tracking a lot of things. These things at the bottom are the very first. There are 4 interviews that have happened. We actually need to update this because the Schottenheimer interview happened earlier on Tuesday. But let's start with where this all became a storyline. As of the Monday morning following divisional round Sunday, Brian Schottenheimer was listed as the favorite, the betting favorite to be specific, to be the next Dallas Cowboys head coach. This is DraftKings odds specifically for what it's worth. Minus 250. Kellen Moore was the next closest at plus 250. In betting parlance, in case you don't know, this minus 250 means you got to wager $250 to win 100. This plus 250 means if you wager $100, you win 250. So this is quite a significant line in terms of the odds that were listed in favor of Brian Schottenheimer. And this was really random on Monday morning because, as noted, at that moment in time, as of Monday morning, the Cowboys had only interviewed Kellen Moore, Robert Saleh, and Leslie Frazier. Now, I'm not, doing anything except telling you the literal truth of what is happening here. But by interviewing Robert Saleh and Leslie Frazier, the Dallas Cowboys did become compliant with the Rooney Rule. So after interviewing those 2 candidates specifically, they were all of a sudden eligible to sign whoever or agree to terms or whatever you want to call, hire whoever they wanted because they were in compliance with the Rooney Rule. That being said, the moment after they became compliant with the Rooney Rule, Monday morning, this happened. Brian Schottenheimer became the favorite, which was interesting. So that was Monday. On Tuesday, it was reported by NFL Network that the Cowboys were going to be interviewing Brian Schottenheimer. So Monday, all this is happening, and he has no interview even lined up. In fact, Schefter goes on McAfee and says, look, they don't even have an interview lined up, but on Tuesday, they come out and say, whoa, Miss Lippy, we are going to do an interview. Okay, fine. On Tuesday afternoon, this is where things currently sit with us, which is why the panic is all over the place and our pets' heads are falling off. I say that hopefully my dogs don't hear that and freak out. But on Tuesday, 105 through the fans, Sean Sharif, which is very confusing for a lot of people because his co-host is named RJ as well. That's RJ Choppy. I'm RJ Ochoa. Sean noted that an offer could come soon from Schottenheimer. In fact, let's pull up his tweet right here as it loads for you. This is our story with that specific information. Sean says, hearing an offer could be coming soon for Brian Schottenheimer. This is on Tuesday at 2:30. Not even an hour later, a half hour later, Clarence Hill of DLLS tweets out the Cowboys are interviewing former offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer today for the head coaching position, not wasting time. After the Clarence tweet, it's reported that the interview is actually taking place at that specific minute, blah, 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 blah. Dude, what is going on? Why is this happening? What has, led the Cowboys to believe that this is a good idea? Now, this is a tweet, what you're about to see on your screen, that has made the rounds many times. In fact, you can't quite see. I think you can maybe right here on the edge of your screen. This is a tweet from Roger Sherman. Fantastic, amazing internet creator, content creator. Roger Sherman's tweet here says, it is once again time for me to tweet the Brian Schottenheimer career summary. This tweet was offered on February the 4th, 2023. So this is now, we're talking 2 years ago. This was after the 22 season when Dallas was moving on from Kellen Moore, and they promoted Brian Schottenheimer, who has been on the staff since 2022, to that position and title. Again, this is kind of an internet-y way to look at this, but it is, I think, pretty representative, pretty emblematic, a bit of a microcosm of who Brian Schottenheimer is. So Schottenheimer's career dates prior to this. This is his NFL work that you're looking at on the screen, by the way. He's, again, been around football all of his life. In case it isn't overwhelmingly obvious, he's the son of the late, great Marty Schottenheimer, who obviously is NFL royalty, was a part of Florida's national championship team in the mid-90s, talking about Brian at this point. So this is his career in the NFL. 28th ranked offense for Washington in 2001. I love the way this is put relative to Drew Brees in San Diego prior to his New Orleans era. The only years where he did not look Hall of Fame level. Then he gets with the Jets. This is the Sanchez era for the most part. They had amazing defenses under Rex Ryan, and they were just so limited on offense. You can thank Brian Schottenheimer for that. Heads down to St. Louis. These are the final years before the Rams moved back to LA. 25th, 21st offensively, goes to Georgia, goes to the collegiate ranks. And I mean, just is awful. I mean, overwhelmingly, it's very difficult to be this bad on offense, let alone to be that bad when you are the Bulldogs. And he found a way, 85th in offense, gets back out of the NFL. This is Andrew Luck, again, just to kind of contextualize where we're at here, although there are some things going on, obviously, but 30th ranked offense in 2017, heads up to Seattle. This is the precursor to letting Russ cook. It was literally Brian Schottenheimer's captivity of Russell Wilson that led Seahawks fans to the let Russ cook movement. I can't highlight here, but I would highlight for you here this 2018. Something significant about this is that in 2018, the Seattle Seahawks lost a playoff game to the Dallas Cowboys. That game was at AT&T Stadium. And I don't want to take away from the Cowboys. I don't want to do this and that or whatever. They won a playoff game. They deserve credit for it. I think anybody who wins a playoff game deserves credit for it. But that being said, that playoff game was partly won by the Cowboys in the 2018 wildcard round because the Seahawks weirdly, strangely stuck with the run and didn't let Russ cook. And recall, it was in 2020 when they finally kind of took the reins off and Brian Schottenheimer was ousted. Heads down to Jacksonville. This is Trevor Lawrence and his last in the NFL. Obviously, there were a lot of problems with the Jaguars in that early season for Trevor Lawrence before Doug Peterson arrived, although there's still problems there right now. But as you can see here, look at this. I mean, look at this just disaster of a career in the NFL. And beyond all of this, like even if you somehow believed that this was okay or this was fine or this could work out or whatever, he hasn't even called plays for the last 2 years. He has just been the offensive coordinator working on install. And look, I am known by a lot of you. I don't say that narcissistically. It's just, I think it's important to contextualize where we're at here. I am known as somebody who is pro Dak Prescott, and I stand in that conviction. I stand firm in the idea that Dak Prescott is a franchise quarterback. I'm not here to have that argument. However, as pro Dak as I am, I believe that I am pro Dak because I'm objective, and I believe that Dak Prescott's a very good quarterback. So all of my proness is based and founded in objectivity. That being said, my objectivity here is that why are you designing this decision around the wants and wishes of Dak Prescott? Now, I recognize how stupid that sounds because the franchise quarterback should be heavily involved. The guy who you just gave $16 million a year to, which could have been less if you had been more proactive about that, but that's, again, a different conversation. You should not let Dak Prescott be the person that is your guiding light here. And the irony of making a decision because Dak wants it when you took too long to pay him is really just hilarious in and of itself. But that being said, I kind of don't care at all what Dak Prescott wants. I don't care if Dak Prescott likes Brian Schottenheimer. I don't care if Dak Prescott likes Kellen Moore. It might be time to do some stuff, and I said this when the Cowboys moved on from Kellen Moore 2 years ago. It might be time to do some stuff that Dak Prescott doesn't like. It might be time to challenge this group, this team, this roster, this offense, this defense. It might be time to push some buttons and flip things, not quite upside down, but just move them around a little bit here. You cannot just stay stuck in the same patterns and verbiage and language and routines and rhythms because they're comfortable. No, that is a stupid reason to go with Brian Schottenheimer if you want to do it. In fact, there are no good reasons. They are, and I say this with all due respect to Brian Schottenheimer, who I've never met in person, but I'm certain is a fine human being. That being said, there are no good reasons to do this, especially, again, if you are catering to the wants and wishes of anybody. And what's even more stupid about this, what is absolutely unbelievable, and I cannot underscore enough how unserious of a process this whole thing has been for the Dallas Cowboys from the moment it began, from way before it began, from a year ago. It's been over a year now since the Cowboys lost to the Green Bay Packers in the wild card round. And since then, they have been dragging their feet and being silly and being stupid and playing stupid games and winning nothing but stupid prizes relative to their decision-making on things like this. Again, it was at this time a year ago, before this time a year ago, when they should have fired Mike McCarthy or they should have given him an extension. And I'm not here to relitigate Mike McCarthy, but I recognize how stupid it sounds to say the Cowboys should have given him an extension. They should have. They should have, because it would have avoided all of the life that we just lived over the course of the last year, all the lame duck stuff, all the talk and the drama and the ridiculousness about it being the final year of his deal and the final year of his staff's deal and Mike Zimmer being on a one-year deal. They could have avoided that. And if you're saying to me, RJ, I didn't want to do that because what if he had sucked? What if the season had played out exactly the way it did? You know what you do? You fire him. That's it, because it's just money. I say this all the time and it still doesn't get through some people's heads. Had it gone bad, had it gone poorly, had it gone south, had it been even more of a disaster than it was, you could have fired him at absolutely no consequence. People love the people who still, for whatever reason, cape for this front office, love to say things about how they're the most valuable franchise in the world, but they can't use that, right? It's a salary cap. It's not, their worth has nothing to do with it. Their worth has everything to do with being willing to do what I'm suggesting. So they should have done what the Minnesota Vikings did today with Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell just led an incredible season for the Minnesota Vikings. He's been to the playoffs 2 out of his first 3 seasons there. And you know what the Vikings did? They said, we're not going to really talk about this. We're not going to make a big deal about this. We're not going to do anything crazy. We're just going to get this extension done. It's not going to be a story. We're going to keep operating at a high level. We're going to hope that it works out because we believe in Kevin O'Connell. We trust. We're not going to make any dramatic or any drama out of a situation that doesn't already have any. Look at the Miami Dolphins. A year ago, they were coming off of 2 straight playoff appearances, didn't even win a playoff game, and Kevin O'Connell hasn't either, for the record. And they said, Mike McDaniel, we're giving you an extension. And the Dolphins were terrible this year. But was there any discussion or any drama about Mike McDaniel's job being in jeopardy? No, the Dolphins just sucked because they sucked. And the Cowboys did not do that. They created this mess. So again, they have been here for a very long time. But if we continue down this path and just focus on these 2 weeks, which is a crazy thing to do in and of itself, but if we just focus on these 2 weeks, they dragged their feet over the first week leading up to the wild card round, which prohibited them ultimately from being able to speak with Ben Johnson when the Lions lost last Saturday night, a loss that nobody's killing Detroit for. And I'm not saying like let's humiliate them, but we can all be adults here and say that the Lions losing is really embarrassing. I wrote about this at SBNation.com. You can go check that out. But that being said, Ben Johnson goes to Chicago, and maybe he was always going to go to Chicago, but that the Cowboys didn't even have a discussion, didn't even have an interview, didn't even look into the most coveted candidate in the pool is representative of a very poor process. I see you, Eugene. Let's put your comment up on the screen here and pin it for us. Says, I totally agree with you, RJ. I find it hard to believe as Jerry is getting old and this next coach might be the last coach he gets a chance to see. Not wishing anything bad, but you would think Jerry would be more serious about the process. And the reality is, Eugene, is that what reason do they have to change, right? I mean, they're the most valuable professional sports franchise in the world. We've discussed this ad nauseum for a decade now. And so if that's their bottom line and it's difficult to believe that it's not, why work harder? And as we get back to the Brian Schottenheimer of this all, he's not a factor at all. I mean, go look at our tracker at blogontheboys.com. There were maybe a small handful of whispers. Shout out to my guy, Joe Hoyt at DLLS. But there were a small handful of whispers about Brian Schottenheimer. But we're talking today on Tuesday, January the 21st. And he just really popped up in terms of being the betting favorite, getting an interview, having the interview, et cetera, et cetera. It took them over a week into the process, which began, over a week too late to put Brian Schottenheimer on their radar. So it's difficult to come to the conclusion of anything other than that Brian Schottenheimer is just some sort of yes man, just some dude who's comfortable with holding the job and being, kind of the bridge to Jason Witten. It's difficult to not believe that that's the case. And I don't even think it's some sort of conspiracy theory at this point in time. I think if I had floated this out like 5 years ago, people would have been like, dude, you're being absolutely ridiculous. There's no way that this is going to happen, blah, blah, blah. But the crazy thing is that something so unbelievable feels actually pretty mundane for the Cowboys these days relative to who they are and the decision process that they're kind of exhibiting time after time after time after again. I see you, IJ Bart says Jerry doesn't care. And again, why would they care? People love to say things, and I believe that your spirit is in the right place, and I know you just want to see change for your favorite football team, but people say things like, we need to stop going to games, we need to stop buying tickets, we need to stop buying merchandise. And I get what you're saying from a commercial standpoint, from a fiscal standpoint, that that's the only real way to hurt the owners or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But do you really think that's going to make a change? I mean, I don't mean to be like negative or, doom and gloom or anything like that, but it's not. Like, the reality is they can act and do whatever they want, act the way they want, do whatever they want, and still make profit after profit after profit after profit because the NFL is that large and they're the center of it all. And so that being said, this Brian Schottenheimer thing kind of developing out of nowhere is also stupid. I'm sorry that I'm all over the place. I'm really just that flabbergasted that Brian Schottenheimer is this legitimate of an operation. And to kind of highlight, again, I don't actually have a highlighter. I actually do have a highlighter here. So to highlight how stupid the Brian Schottenheimer thing is, and the process is at large, and the narcissism involved with the decision-making process relative to Mike McCarthy, we have heard now in this process, which is now over a week old, that the Cowboys like Brian Schottenheimer, right? That goes without saying. I see you possibly, Tony Romo. I'll get to your comment in just a moment. It is very clear and obvious that the Cowboys, to some degree, like Brian Schottenheimer, at the very least, because they interviewed him for the position. Okay, that's one. They have mentioned that they would not mind bringing Mike Zimmer back, right? That's been on record. Lots of people reporting this. Okay. On Monday, the other coordinator, the third leg of our tripod triumvirate here, John Bones Fossil, agreed to go become the special teams coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. A lateral move for Bones for a worse team. I mean, no offense to the Titans, but this is like banishment. I mean, this is like being on the Traders and being banished. Like it's like literally being banished in the NFL, going to work for the Titans. He took a lateral move for a worse off organization. They are literally the worst team in the NFL. They have the number 1 overall pick. Okay, that being said, so as we do the math here, all 3 coordinators, Brian Schottenheimer in title, obviously not the play caller, Mike Zimmer, John Fossil, all these are the 3 coordinators of the Dallas Cowboys the last year, at least, obviously longer than that for Shoddy and for Fossil. And the Cowboys are on record by way of multiple reports saying, we like all these guys. We wouldn't mind all these guys coming back in varying degrees. Maybe Schottenheimer is the head coach. Okay. If you like all these guys, maybe the guy who was like the boss that they all kind of worked together, maybe it was kind of stupid to let him go. Maybe it is believable that you kind of were caught by surprise, as Diana Rossini reported last week on her podcast, Scoop City at The Athletic. Maybe it is believable that you're just playing some really stupid games. I mean, like, think about if you had no idea. I just watched Interstellar for the first time ever in my life, like literally today. And it was really good movie. I can see how people like it. And so I know that there weren't aliens. At least I think that I know that. But imagine if an alien landed right now, today, and you had to explain this whole thing to them. And I'm here to help you, obviously, by way of this show. But you're telling them, yeah, well, the thing about it is the Cowboys got rid of the head coach, but he has 3 coordinators. And they really like them all. And they kind of want them all to be back, or on some level wanted them all to be back. The alien would be like, well, why didn't they just keep the head coach? Like, why didn't they just keep everything the way that it was? Why, if you liked it the way that it was, why change everything up? I don't know. Like, you can't explain it because it's that stupid. And so again, it's ridiculous to say something like, oh, well, Brian Schottenheimer would be a great head coach because he hasn't been a play caller. You have no idea what he could bring to the offense. He's been nothing but terrible to this point in his NFL career. Again, all due respect. And if you liked him so much, why did you move on from the guy who was his boss and the head coach? And if you tell me it's because you want to do it for the benefit of Dak Prescott, A, why did you do Dak the way that you did multiple times over relative to his own situations, relative to his contract? And B, if you are going to get the coach that Dak wants, Dak went on record himself a few weeks ago, something that is an extraordinary rare thing for him, and said, I want McCarthy back. There is no way, like on the subject of Interstellar and how complicated it was very difficult to understand. You cannot connect any 2 dots. There's no straight line that you can draw between any 2 decisions that this team is making. It's one thing this day, another thing 3 hours later, another thing 5 minutes later, another thing 16 minutes later. The next day, it's a whole different galaxy of decisions. This is just, I mean, literally living and being reality television. I told you I'd get to your comment. Possibly Tony Romo says, hiring Shoddy would set this team back. He's not very good at what he currently does. So you want to give him a promotion. It's become very obvious that Jerry isn't serious about this team anymore. He makes more money than anyone, and he's got his 3 rings and gold jacket. Again, I mean, like, he's playing Monopoly, and he's got Park Place, he's got Boardwalk, he's got the other 3, what are they called? The green ones, like Pennsylvania Avenue. He's got all the railroads. You know what I mean? He's even got the yellow ones right before the jail, and the red ones, like right after you pass free parking or whatever. Like, he owns the board, and it's unfortunate, and it's annoying, and it's really difficult to accept, but that's the way it is. We can sit here and we can moan and we can groan, and nothing about it is going to change. However, we as fans deserve some change, and that's why we're here. It is, generally speaking, kind of a hopeless and fruitless endeavor, but that doesn't mean we can't try. That doesn't mean we can't highlight it. It is quite literally my job at SB Nation to make sure that I help serve as the pulse of Dallas Cowboys fans, that I take a pulse of Dallas Cowboys fans, and I understand how we are all feeling. And right now, man, we are fed up. I cannot tell you how many times a day in my mentions on X or Instagram or whatever, people are like, dude, I'm out. I can't do it anymore. This Brian Schottenheimer thing has really pushed people over the edge. Because think about this for a second. All right. Now, I don't know who you wanted to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, say, a week ago, right? Because I did a stream last Tuesday. I did a show on Thursday as well. And I can't recall exactly who each of you would or could or did not say. Maybe you were Team Dion. That's where I'm at right now. Like, we're at a place, because I'm not like super anti-Dion, but obviously, I mean, all of these these choices are down the rabbit hole. My point is, we are so far down the rabbit hole that I am begging for Deion Sanders. In fact, at this point, I'm close to begging for Kellen Moore. But maybe Kellen was your person. Maybe you were like, I want Kellen. I believe in it. Let's do it, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you were somebody that, I think this was more rare, but there was a sector of the fan base that said, I want Robert Saleh. That's what I want. There were definitely people who wanted Robert Saleh or wanted Kellen Moore or wanted Deion Sanders. No, Chris Meany, it hasn't been made official. This is just speculation. But if you're reading between the lines, not that you can draw a line between any of the dots, it feels like it's heading in this direction. That being said, we're going to get to Jason Witten soon in a moment. But whoever your choice was, Kellen Moore, Deion Sanders, Robert Saleh, nobody, and I mean nobody, wanted Brian Schottenheimer. This is the one thing that has unified this fan base in a long, long, long time, and in the worst possible way. Literally, find me the single person that you know. Find me any person that's like, I think that's a great idea. No, you can't find that person because it doesn't exist, because this idea is a horrible one. Now, to kind of take things where it feels like they are. Brian Schottenheimer, again, we've outlined why this makes no sense. So why is he going to be the head coach potentially? Because it isn't official at the time of this conversation as of yet. I continue to check out Twitter to make sure that that's the case. That being said, why are they going to hire Brian? Like, again, maybe we're talking to the alien again. Maybe the alien's like, well, if he's like that poor of a candidate, why would they hire him for the job? That doesn't make any sense. Like, on our planet of flim flam, that would never fly. And you sit there and you have to break the news to Mr. Alien. You have to say, well, it's because Brian Schottenheimer, excuse me. It's a very difficult last name to say out loud over and over and over again. But Brian Schottenheimer is seemingly cool with being the bridge. The bridge to what? The bridge to Jason Witten. This team, this front office, this owner, these decision makers are just obsessed with their guys and their people. And if they have smiled upon you, then you are in luck, and you will get opportunity after opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to fail and fail and fail again. And if you do not believe me, need I remind you that Jason Garrett was the head coach of this team for 9 years, the first 3 in which he went 8-8 and lost a division title match in week 17 to literally every single team in the division. That actually happened. All right. We could write a book about that. And it actually happened. And it was tolerated. The mediocrity that this fan base tolerates in the name of doing it their way is the worst. And I would guarantee, in fact, let me put this tweet up on the screen for you here, because I laughed very hard at this. I'm looking for it. It's taking me a second. I wasn't prepared for this. Here we go. Finding the link, opening it up on my screen. So I tweeted out earlier in the day that if Brian Schottenheimer were hired, I see you possibly, Tony Romo says, if they hire him, he's the fall guy to promote Witten in 2 years. Exactly. This team badly, desperately wants Jason Witten to be the head coach, obviously, of the Dallas Cowboys. So this was my tweet earlier in the day. Assuming Schottenheimer is in fact the choice, how long after that hypothetically official announcement is it also officially announced? I know it's a weird way to put it. Is it also officially announced that Jason Witten is on his staff? And I jokingly set the over-under at 6.5 hours. Great friend of mine, great friend of the show, great friend of Blogging the Boys, Jane Slater, super reputable reporter, one of the very best in the game, responds, probably already included in a press release. Think about that. Think about that. I mean, it is going to be so obvious. It is so obvious, the game that this team is playing, the stupid game that this game is playing. And what's more obvious is the stupid prize that this game is playing. So to hire Brian Schottenheimer is objectively a horrible decision. There is not a single piece, shred, modicum of evidence that you can provide that says, you know what, Brian Schottenheimer, he's the man for the job. You can't find it. It doesn't exist. I promise you. This is a Kobayashi Maru. That being said, the even worse part about hiring Brian I'm telling you, it's a difficult thing to say over and over and over again, about hiring Brian to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, is that it is like dead on arrival. It's just like nothing. It's not even real. You can't even cope yourself into thinking like, well, maybe it'll work out. No, it won't, because we know it has an expiration date. Have you ever bought milk with 6 days left before the expiration date? Like, you had no choice. Like, you look through all of them and you're like today's the 21st. Say you like all the quarts are like they expire on the 29th. You're like, well, this sucks. Like, I don't have that long of a time. You're constantly looking for that quart of milk. You want like February 8th. That's what you want from a quarter milk right now. But all of these say February 27th, February 28th, February what I'm sorry, January 27th, January 28th, because we know that it has an expiration date. We know that this is going to Jason Witten someday in the very near future. And then we have to climb up that hill and live in that purgatory. It's exhausting. And we all know it. And this team is going to do it regardless of that. And they're going to try to act like it's some sort of genius move when nothing but history suggests and proves overwhelmingly so that it is a terrible idea. My last thing before we get out of here, because I see this question, it's a fair one. This was you possibly, Tony Romo. Let me take this off. It's you, Eugene, who had this question. If they want Witten that bad, then just make him the head coach and let's move on. I understand where you're coming from at this point. I do. I get it because it feels like, well, okay, just don't even worry about milk, right? Like let's just get coffee creamer and we'll figure it out, right? I get what you're saying. This is what they're counting on. And you're not wrong for this, Eugene. I don't mean to like paint you to be like you have a wrong opinion here. This is what they're counting on. They're counting on all of us getting so worn out and beat down by the idea of Brian Schottenheimer. Nailed it. That we'll say, you know what, dude, just do Witten. Just like fine. And they'll be like, okay, fine. You wanted Witten? Here you go. This is like classic, reverse psychology. All right, fine. You really don't want Brian Schottenheimer. You're really wanting us to do Jason Witten now. We'll go ahead and do it now. It's the dumbest. Like, why are these your two choices? I mean, it's ridiculous. I agree with you. Chris Meany says this team feels like a bad episode of Succession. They are not serious people, to quote the great Logan Roy. Whoever you are, I think that you're great as well. Please follow me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Threads at RJ Ochoa, TikTok, rj.ochoa. You can email me, rj.ochoa@sbnation.com if that is more your thing. I'm here in the Bleacher Report live every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. These get uploaded after the fact to Blog and the Boys as well. And yeah, that's really all I have to say. I'm going to assume that we will have a new head coach by the time. Actually, before we leave, let's put this up on your screen. Last thing, because I want to make sure we get this. I haven't listened to this yet myself. So this is Ian Rappaport talking about the situation. One second. Let me know in the comments, please, if you can hear this. I think you should be able to. Okay, I see you guys saying nope. So sorry about that awkward silence, but I did hear it, so I can tell you what he said. I appreciate the the honesty. So Ian says in the clip, "Hey, like nothing's official, nothing's happening yet. It's just an interview." Blah blah blah. He says, "Could the Cowboys be waiting on something? Maybe like Kellen Moore to be finished in the playoffs? Obviously, the Eagles are in the title game. They could be in the Super Bowl, so that would last a bit longer." But he does say, and he said this right as you all said, "Hey, I can't hear you." So again, apologies. But he said he said this feels real, like saying like this isn't just some silly rumor. So again, I want to be very clear here. He didn't say like this feels real, like it wasn't like, oh, this is definitely happening. But he said this is not some show. And Ian has been saying that the Dion thing didn't quite feel real. I'm putting some words in his mouth there, but he has said all along he doesn't think that Dion's going to get an interview with the Cowboys. So that Ian went on record and said that it is a real thing. Well, get yourself a cupcake or a piece of pie, because we're gonna need it sometime soon. So thanks so much for hanging out with me, everybody. I love doing these. I'll be here back again on Thursday. For now, I bid you all adieu. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday. Des caught it, and yeah, see you next time.